Thank you, thank you. Let me first pay tribute to the 1971 martyrs. This is a big question, but I would be very precise to respond to what you have asked me to deliver on. You see, first there are myths about Bangladesh. Myth starts, but not really truly reflected with Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger never said that. From basket case to test case to development surprise to development paradox. This is the problem. Why? Because without really understanding the geography, the people, the citizen, the economy, the politics, you are trying to provide stereotyping narratives on the country of which you hardly know. So when we really provide these narratives, we really do not look at the history of Bangladesh. History of Bangladesh is that of struggles, and that culminated into 1971. May not be similar to what the US proudly say Bill of Charter, but we had a declaration of our War of Independence, which exactly says what are the core issues for which the citizens have fought for. So this is about equality, human dignity, and social justice. So no one has really traveled that route to understand what is the remarkable journey that we have in Bangladesh based upon three principles. So which means, are we there to have a citizen state? The key question we have to ask ourselves, are we now at a citizen state? In order to ask that question, if we are really bringing the variables of economics and those of politics, say for example, let me just go through those very briefly. Labor, obviously, we had a rate of reduction in poverty. But that rate of reduction in poverty has slowed down. Because of why? During the pre-COVID crisis, because our employment process has slowed down. So the growth rate that we have witnessed was a jobless growth. Secondly, when we really looked at during the COVID crisis, what we need is a new roadmap to salvage the humanity because of new poor, because of the working poor, and because of the huge unemployed. So are we taking ourselves and looking at those challenges, or are we trying our best to put it under carpet? So that's the second. We talk about a lot about skills development, and we really proudly can say that because of our migration from rural area to the urban centers, or migration from rural areas to different West Asian countries, had led to the growth story. But we are not saying that. We are not saying that the story of Bangladesh is the migration of labor which has really increased their income, that has led to the consumption, and that is the story of growth. So if we are really looking at, then our policy making has to really focus on everything on people, and that too on labor. But unfortunately, our university system, of which I belong to, are not providing what it's supposed to provide: skills formation, innovation, citizenship. Let's look at the capital. So what we see, we are witnessing the highest growth in capital accumulation that any countries have witnessed after post-Second World War. But equally, then we are saying that we had a 9% tax GDP ratio. How do we reconcile both the stories? How do we reconcile the fact that we had an economy where private sector investment to GDP has remained stagnant more than 1.5 decades, while everyone is saying there is a huge capital flight? How on earth we can say that our growth engine is micro, small, medium enterprises? But why on earth they are not getting the credit, particularly the women entrepreneurs? Why then we are talking about there is a structural shift? If there had been a structural shift, we would have not seen the rate of income, rate of employment, not in informal sector, but in manufacturing. But what our statistics suggest, there is a negative growth in employment in our formal sector. So how do we reconcile the fact that we have a growth which is decent employment? And as we all know, the story of poverty reduction is that of creation of employment and increase in income share. Then let's really look at the tax evasion, tax avoidance. We are talking about a country that boastfully argues that we want to have a equal society, but we are having highest amount of tax collected from value-added tax, which is a regressive tax. We have not seen the direct tax, which is income tax, growing at a faster rate. Then let's really look at the technology acquisition. The COVID-19 has shown when there is a higher, faster wave in European countries of destination, then our orders in RMZ really falls back. So there is a direct correlation. Then why on earth are we not talking about diversification, competitiveness, and technology acquisition? So these are all known to everyone. Known to everyone that we had to really pursue a strategy which is what our people have fought for, to have a country which is a citizen state. Then let me really look at other issues. Say for example, we really become so joyous when we see our cricket team really scoring. But when it comes to the destruction of Sundarbans, we keep ourselves mum. We allow someone to have a coal-fired energy. So we know the issues. It's not that we do not know the issues. Then let us talk about institutions. Why there are institutional paralysis? And this is known to everyone. It's not something we have to discover. We know what is the crisis in banking sector.
You have 1 more minute, please.
Yes. Okay. We know the crisis in banking sector. Instead of really addressing it, what we did, we changed the law, we increased the family definition, and then we allowed them to be director for unknown years. I can go on. The point is that Bangladeshi people have the resilience where they have been given the chances they have shown. Because the whole story is about the people really making progress. What we say COVID-19, I was shocked to hear that there was no discussion about universal health care. There was no discussion about universal education. There are no discussion. We are talking about Bangladesh at 50. There was no discussion about universal social security system. Because if you are to be a citizen of a country, then you are entitled to those alienable rights. And we are signatory to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So the point is very simple. We know the issues. We know how to achieve those issues. What we are not doing is we are hiding ourselves. But as an ever optimist, I would rather say that people would be advancing, but the political settlement, if it doesn't really be with the process, then like the West Pakistanis, you would also be in wonderland. So it is people who are marching. If you can't really hear like Sheikh Mujibur Rahman heard of it, then you are in a process where people would be marching and you would be people of yesteryears. Thank you. Thank you.
This is Rashed Al Mahmud. I am the faculty member of Dhaka University and also the research director of Center for Government Studies. My question to Professor Titumir, due to the huge agenda of SDG, partnership has been included as one of the goals of SDG. But my question to him is whether you see any visible initiative of the government to include development partners, CSOs, NGOs, or especially the private sector to achieve SDG, or it is we do alone approach of the government? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving me the floor. I'm Alif, Research Assistant, Center for Governance Studies. Sir, as we have seen that every government, sir, please note that every government, I've said, not mentioning the particular political parties, because the officers from NSI and DGF are already here. Sir, as we have seen that every government always suffered from complacency, suffered from self-satisfaction that they have achieved their economic growth. Again, as we know, the national wastage, the dissipation, also, say for example, the unmake of BGMA building and other infrastructure, government infrastructure, also included the national income. And it's already increased the national income.
Question.
So, my question is that, especially going to the Nazrin ma'am and former chairman of NBR, Mr. Abdul Mujid, is that do you really believe that Bangladesh has achieved its growth properly?
Okay.
And if not, then what is your suggestion regarding the...
Thank you. That itself is a huge question, but what I tend to agree, say, the classic example, the lady from the DFID just went away, but she should have been there to listen to this. You see, the Britain wants to be a global Britain, but then they are merging Foreign and Commonwealth Office with the DFID. And then it wants to be a power, and currently it is undertaking the defense review, while it is sending its Queen Elizabeth to the South China Sea, and then reducing the Ethiopian budget. So why I brought that example is that because the way partnership has been understood is the way I want to see the partnership. So what I think is what you follow. But what the citizens want, we don't listen, we have a deaf ear. So the question is about when we talk about partnership, we need to really understand what is what that led to divisiveness. So as the earlier discussion pointed out, why there had been a unique opportunity of having a consensus-driven government after the independence was lost. Simultaneously, what we have seen during the post-75 up to 90, we had also seen how do you really create a society where there is a divisiveness. Then after the 1991, you have made sure, the statecraft has made sure through this competitive clientelism of these two parties that the civil society or independent bodies are becoming subservient to those political leadership. So which has created Dhaka University teachers becoming stooges of the major two political parties, simultaneously economists and everyone, so that the idea of having a solidarity-driven economy has lost its core because of the political settlement, which is clientelistic in nature, where they want to sustain through primitive accumulation. So all institution that you see is divisive in nature and driven by clientelism. Even in case of COVID-19 vaccine, you have seen how that process has worked.